Today is my guest, Melissa Sherman of Calming Creek. Welcome, Melissa. I'm glad to
Thank
have you
you.
here.
I'm so honored to be here.
Oh. Well, today we're going to talk about animal voices, and we're going to have a curiosity-driven conversation that blends stories and science to help you listen better to the animals in your life. So make sure you connect with Wildlands and Calming Creek. Check out our work, and we're going to also share ways to help your animal friends. So, Melissa, tell me a little bit about your work before we get into the questions.
Sure. So I'm an animal communicator and energy practitioner. I didn't always do this, but over the years in my own health, my animals kind of pushed me to start. Well, I started by researching how can I help my animals? How can I support my animals? And then it just slowly opened this new world to me. And it wasn't just how can I help my animals? How can I listen to my animals? And then it was like, oh, animal communication, what's that? And then I just kind of went into that. This whole world opened. I left the corporate world and I'm a full-time animal communicator, and really just, every day is about giving animals a voice and really how we can reconnect ourselves back to nature, back to the world. And our animals are really guiding us there.
100%. I agree with you so much. I felt the same way, Melissa. I left the corporate world too and started a animal communications, animal healing business, and I do pet portraits as well. And I do both of those things, communication and healing, while I'm painting or drawing the animal portrait. It's something that really calls to people like us, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not just about the creative side of it, which I think, in the corporate world, that was all dampened in me. I was not an individual. I had no creativity. It was following things that I had to do. So it really detached me from myself, where I feel like I've just been such a creative my whole life. I think a lot of people have that buried deep in them, and it's about reawakening that and remembering where we all came from.
Very well said. I agree with you. And I think that, that's what is calling a lot of us right now, is to connect, because our society and our world has kind of gotten away from being connected with each other and with nature and animals, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's myself even included. I always thought I was somebody that was very active in nature, and I did a lot of sports and outdoor activities. And it wasn't until I moved to the farm that I live on now and, walking with my dog, that I was like, I really became a tourist to nature. I was not, I didn't have a relationship like I had when I was a child with nature. So it's like I'm just here visiting, but was I really like having that soul connection with the earth, the trees, the wildlife? I mean, listening to the birds, and you don't have to be an animal communicator to just appreciate the sounds of nature. I mean, it's just so, it's magic. I mean, there's no other word to say it. It's such the opposite of, the world that I was living in.
Very good. Yeah, I agree with you. And what brings me back to nature is the remembering that a lot of what goes on in our world is not important, even though it just is so highlighted everywhere to make us feel like it is. It's really not. And
Yeah,
time in nature brings us back to what's important.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, I really love our connection, Melissa. So let's start with the questions. Sound
Sure.
good?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's go.
All right. So tell us about a single animal encounter that changed how you listen to animals and what you learned from it.
So I'm going to talk about my cat Maisie, who, she passed last year, but she's taught me so much, both in living and since she's passed. But again, back to really moving to the farm that I live at was just such a fork in the road for me. I mean, there's obviously things that happened before that led to this. It was always a dream of mine to live here, I guess. I even drew out the plans of a house, and it's up a little higher and there's water, and it's exactly like here. So it was something that I had a vision for. But again, the plan was not to leave the corporate world. I had a career. Like, I thought I was going to be there forever. But Maisie was a really social at my previous home. She was outgoing, chatty. She was a tortoise. If you know tortoise shell cats, torties. They're known for their tortitude. They're sassy. And she really fully embodied that sassiness. When I moved here, there were some renovations with the floor that were being done. So she went into a room and never came out. Like, I had to go in there and feed her. I had to put things in there for her. And I'm like, it's probably the noise. We just moved. Cats are sensitive. I dismissed a lot of these things that were her screaming at me, like, calm down. And it wasn't until like my health I started to have some health complications that, turns out it was stress related. Weird. I had worked in finance, but it was stress related. But I reconnected with Reiki that I had become a Reiki master in 2010, but like, you get away from it, or it's like, oh, it's a thing I do sometimes. I started reconnecting with that. I started, doing different kinds of trauma healing, different kinds of somatic healing, reconnecting with myself. Strange thing is that Maisie started to come around and her chatty self came back out. She was who she was before and even more so. And like, that was to me a huge awakening, that my energy had such an impact on her that she was hiding from it. She didn't want to be around it. But listening to that started to that's where like, the blinders started to come off. And I'm like, who else am I affecting in this house? Right. And I had a cat Noodle, the same thing. I had adopted her in the middle of the move as well. So I didn't actually know her personality. Now I joke that she's the mayor of the household. She checks with everybody. She kisses everybody. She just has to greet everybody. So like, that awareness came from Maisie. And it really, unfortunately, I didn't realize she was hiding from me until later, but it gave me this awareness now that if my animals change behavior at all, I can ask, what's going on with me first? And of course, it's not always me, but that's where I always start with, okay, well, what kind of day have I had? What might I have brought home into this house? And I, go and regulate myself. Then I go back and check in. Are we still hiding? Are we still doing a weird behavior? And then kind of go from there. So that's really the biggest turning point in self-awareness for me from my cat.
Well, that's very, very helpful because you've identified the first small sign you noticed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then you translated it into the signals for you. So that's fantastic. And what kind of practical actions for a caregiver or an owner can you do once you find those first small signals and are able to translate them?
So, I mean, maybe at first writing them down so you have something to look at, but just really start paying attention more. And I think that's where what happens, right? Is it's about paying attention. It's about living mindfully. I know that's a big buzzword, but it's really living, being present with yourself and who is around you. So just monitoring when something shifts, whether it's a cat, eliminating outside of a litter box or a dog shaking for no reason, it's asking yourself, okay, how do I feel? And then if you don't know, start to look at other people in the household, because you might be totally fine and you might have a partner or a child or a roommate or somebody that's like very stressed out. And it's like, we're all connected in that household. So we have a rhythm together. We have our own unit energy. So that energy imbalance with whoever it's coming from, it's just good to just start kind of just doing a temperature check on yourself and everybody else.
Very important, especially these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you give one simple exercise that listeners can try this week?
Yeah, to connect with their animals. Um,
Yes.
so what I would say first, I would say put your devices down for 5 to 10 minutes. So that's got to be number one. And because I don't think we realize, I certainly did not realize how attached I was to my phone. And I'm sure you and the listeners have seen this too, whether it's yourself or somebody else. You see people walking their dogs, but they're doing this, or, they're doing that, or they're doing this, and they just have the leash on their wrist. And you see the dog looking up at them like, Mom, come on, like, let's do a walk. Let's connect. They're really looking for that connection. So I would say that's the first thing. And then I would, maybe suggest some meditation, whether that's, when I first started this, I was not really great at sitting in meditation and silence because I have a very busy mind. I have ADHD, but I'm also super sensitive. It's hard to sit there and get out of my thoughts. With a lot of practice, I'm able to do that. But at first, I would have to do walking meditations. And I think that's the best way, whether you're going with your dog or you're not going with your dog, start with a walking meditation and start feeling certain things in your body. Ooh, I'm anxious, but why? So those are the best exercises to start. When you know yourself better, you're going to be able to receive messages from animals a lot easier because you'll know, one, is that me or is that them? And then two, you'll know, okay, I wasn't anxious before I connected with this animal, but now I am. That helps you kind of discern, okay, well, what's going on with you, right? You can kind of get into it a little bit more. I know I'm getting ahead. You asked for one thing, but yeah, there's a couple of things that's where you have to start to be able to start receiving the messages, is really clean up our home to be able to welcome someone else into it.
That's so true. It's like the analogy of the flight attendant. If you need to assist someone, you got to help yourself with oxygen first, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I share that with pet parents all the time. And, a lot of us don't want to do that first. We just want to help our babies. We don't want to look at ourselves first. But I can't tell you how much improvement I see in animals when the person starts to take care of themselves first, and that ripple effect through their household.
Yeah, and I will share an example. So I live on the road right now. I'm in my hometown, and I'm starting up a group here to do the community projects that I have been doing out west. And so I'm staying with my mom, and 2 doors down is a lady who loves cats, and she has 4 feral cats who are no longer totally feral. They're kind of shy, but a couple of them are very friendly and love to have attention. And so she was in the hospital and asked us to kind of, keep an eye on her cats because they're outside all the time, a lot. And her daughter was feeding them and all that. But I could tell a difference in those cats. They were worried about their mom. And one looked a little exhausted because she was no longer going in at night because Jan wasn't there to let her in at night. So, they really do feel a worry and fear and all, emotions because they're sentient beings. And I know, when I come back to visit my mom, they all come running to me. They're excited to see me. So they're so smart, and I just would love it if people would treat them more with more respect in general, because they do have emotions and needs.
They absolutely do. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we get into any questions from the listeners, let's talk about some common myths about animal communication. And what common myths do you hear the most, and how would you correct them with one clear example?
Sure. So I would say people think that I can just go and talk to your animal. If let's just say there's a behavior. Let's say that there's a dog chewing on shoes, that I can just go in and say, stop chewing on those shoes. I can't, and I won't, because it's really, it's not like that. It's more of an open, I'm trying to see their perspective. It's more, why are you chewing on the shoes? And then we're going to meet in the middle to help meet those needs rather than don't do that. Because I'm not a trainer. I don't want to be a trainer, but like it's about giving them agency so they feel like their needs are met. And I feel like if we go in and just tell them what to do, first of all, they're not going to listen. They're just not going to listen to a stranger, just like we wouldn't if somebody came and they're like, you need to stop doing this. Like, okay, like, see you later. But it's like, we want to give them the agency so they feel safe. Because generally when there's a behavior, a need's not being met, whether it's safety or boredom or, whatever the issue is, when we know what the issue is, what's driving that, then we can help them rather than fixing them, because we're not fixing them, right? Like, they're perfect. And we're not here to make them fit into our mold of what they need to be. Like, they don't need to be little corporate humans, right? They need to be, let them be. Another thing, so like if you want to try animal communication, I think one of the biggest things is people think you're getting like loud, booming, clear sentences, because I've taught a few classes and people are just like, well, I don't hear anything. And I'm like, no, like, let's back up. It's so subtle, especially at first. You may just see something like yellow. Whoa. Well, I wasn't thinking of that. What was that? So don't look for something like, do you have a message for me today? And maybe you just see a red ball. Maybe that's the message from your animal, especially if you're not thinking about a red ball, right? It's not necessarily going to be this big, profound thing, especially if you're just starting practicing. So I think those would be the two biggest ones. Yeah. And it's not really like, there are people that come to me for health issues, and I'm not a veterinarian. I'm not going to diagnose your animal. I can help with symptoms if we're having trouble finding a diagnosis, and those symptoms can potentially help the veterinarian figure out what different diagnostics they can try. Or, and that's something like if a cat's eliminating outside the box, that's the first thing I ask the person to do is you got to go to the vet first, and we got to make sure that there's nothing driving that medically before we go in and try to figure out what's going on, because I'm not a veterinarian.
Right. So those are great examples, and thank you for that. So when science and intuition seem to disagree, how do you decide which to trust in interpreting behavior?
So when I default to veterinarians first, and I would never discourage somebody from trusting their veterinarian. When it comes to behavior, I do feel like listening to what your animal is saying, what might be driving that, taking that into consideration, I think it's just so important and sometimes really helpful, because while a veterinarian might be doing diagnostics, there are not a lot of veterinarian behaviorists in this country that are trained in specific behaviors. So like taking a piece of information that your animal shares is going to be a really big piece of the puzzle that can help. And, so I think both. I think trusting both, but like knowing where there's limitations in either.
Yeah. And that means you have to be open-minded and flexible, right? And have a lot of tools in your tool
Yeah,
chest.
exactly. They're different tools is exactly how I look at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So any quick rule of thumb that you use in the field when you're working with an animal?
For just anything specifically or just behavior?
Just anything that pops in with behavior or anything that you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm honoring the animal. So if I'm in person with an animal, I'm going to come into their space in a more submissive manner. I'm not going to come in there boisterous and loud and commanding. I'm going to come and I'm going to sit and I'm going to make my energy small. So that might sound abstract, but like you can do that. You can pull your energy in, you can fluff your energy out. Like, improv actors will do this all the time, but you pull your energy in, make yourself small, pull your shoulders in. And I'm communicating through my heart. I'm letting them know, hi, I'm here to talk to you. I'm communicating with you. Do you want to have a conversation with me? Your mom and dad are trying to help, or whoever called, right? They're trying to help you, and I'm here to help you. So it's always making myself like, I want to make myself smaller because I'm not there to be big and change them. I want to give you a voice so we can help you. So we can help you feel whatever needs are not being met.
Yeah, that's really important because, animals want to please people and their hearts are open and they don't need someone booming in their face, with loud voices and overpowering physique and energy, they don't need that. They need, like you're describing, to connect with them.
Exactly.
And you described that really well.
And they're really receptive when you do. I mean, you can even try this yourself if you're on a hike in nature and you want to just sit down, be quiet, pull your energy and practice there and just see who comes to visit. It's incredible. Like, a rabbit, you'll see different animals that are prey animals come up and just be with you because you feel safe. You're putting this safe energy out, and it's really incredible. So when you bring that into the home, you'll see that as well, where there's maybe a dog that's really time you go visit them. Try next time to sit in your car before you get out and just pull your energy in, and then approach that differently with really just keep feeling love in your heart. And that's the thing. And like, and I think of him, and that's who when I feel that unconditional love, and I project that out. I think it froze a little bit, but hopefully you got all that.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Do you want to maybe just back up a little bit to when you said sit in your car and connect, and maybe
Yeah.
just go over that again?
Sure. So I think of my dog Cooper, who is my soul dog, and I will think about how I love him. So you can feel the warmth in your chest when you think about someone or something that you truly, truly love deeply. And just really just keep feeling that over and over. And then you start putting that out. It becomes a very welcoming invitation for animals.
Absolutely. And Leilani says, my daughter has the ability, as does her uncle. It's beautiful to see them in resonance.
That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
just encouraging that is awesome, especially in your daughter. And
Yes. And
yeah,
witnessing it is just as powerful and beautiful.
it is absolutely
Wonderful. Leilani also says, for me, it's an ocean, trees, and sky.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
And
That's it
thank
too.
you. Yeah.
Place, right? If you have a favorite place, whether it's a real place that you've been or a place in your imagination that you can go that's truly calming to you, that'll shift your energy that you're putting out there. And I mean, it can do it pretty quickly.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I do to, just get in that happy place, picture nature, me and nature. And it doesn't have to be anything, it could be just a tree in your front yard, or I don't mean just, but I mean, just connecting for me is also important too. Speaking of trees, I sometimes will stare at a tree and
Yeah.
it resets my brain.
It does. I mean, it's incredible, and it's about simplifying it and not overcomplicating it. Because I think that's something too. Is sometimes when we first start trying to reconnect, we have this idea in our mind that it's like this big foreign thing, and we don't know how to do it, and everything has to be perfect, and like it doesn't. And animals don't need you to be perfect. In fact, they don't want you to be perfect. That's not something that exists for them, right? We're all perfect. And it's just about finding what works for you.
Right. Absolutely. And thank you again, Leilani. She said, you are both beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I'm not seeing her messages.
Oh, so
Thank you.
Yeah. So my grandmother actually was very much into energy work. And so I was very open as a child, as children are. And even though there were skeptics, around, I grew up believing in energy work. And as an adult, I trained in Reiki and healing touch for people and animals. So it definitely has an effect on people and animals and any animal. I mean, I've worked with wildlife and domestics and farm animals and, all of them. So they all respond to it. And children are very open and respond beautifully to energy work. And what happens, like, what recommendations do you have to help people with their pets, maybe transition time as the rainbow bridge nears, because that's sometimes obviously that's a very emotional time and people might not be able to really be present for their animal because maybe they're grieving already. So
Yeah.
what recommendations do you have to help people with that time, special time of transition?
So I have written about this a lot because it is something that I've lived, a lot of people live it. Um, Anticipatory grief is tough. We get so caught up in them not being here that we're not seeing them when they still are. So as hard as it is sometimes to pull ourselves out of that, it's about pulling ourselves out of that and remembering who they are. And I'll say this as an animal communicator: if you're not able to communicate with your animal, work with an animal communicator because they can help remind you. And when I say they, this is your animals, can share something with the animal communicator that reminds you of who they were, what your relationship was. And it's just so beautiful to just remember these things, right? Because we get so caught up in the disease or the death or the chronic illness or what it's going to feel like when they're no longer with us and that void. We're all in the future, and we lose this precious time that we still have with them. So working with somebody to help support you, to remind you they are still here, and then maybe even creating something like a bucket list with your animal and the animal communicator, right? Like, oh my gosh, I remember we used to go on car drives all the time, but I stopped bringing them because they started XYZ, whatever the reason is, right? Like, you start putting them in a container because they're not well or they're dying, and you start restricting things, but they want to still do these things. And when you do them with them and you see that spark in their eye, it's just it's about being present while they're still here. And it's a practice. It's not something that comes easily, and it's not going to be done perfectly. I know all this, and losing an animal, Cooper is a senior dog. There are times that I trip myself up where I'm like, what is it going to be like when he's not here, right? Like, you get into this thing where it's almost like an obsession fear that you cannot get yourself out of. So it's really about practicing, like, okay, I can have these thoughts. I am not going to live here, especially while he's still here, because that they can feel that. And then, I've worked with animals that have told me that, like, I want mommy to stop worrying about me so much, right? Like, it's they want you to be present with them.
Yes, so sweet. And Leilani says sorry, she has to go and yes, this interview will be posted to Wildlands and I'm sure Melissa Common Creek as well. So yes, you can re-listen to this later. I post everything on Wednesdays, so it'll be on today, later today. And Leilani says your message was meant to find me today. Oh,
God.
I love that.
Yes.
Well, thank you for all your great participation, Leilani. And Julie Doney, I hope I'm saying this correctly, your last name. Such great information. An animal communicator helped us a lot when our dog was dying from cancer. Oh, thank you, Julie,
Thank you
for sharing that. And thank you for having help with your animal, a special time. And Jen Gordon says, I'm struggling with anticipatory grief for my girl, Lilo. She's 14. Yeah.
It's not easy. It's about finding something that what would bring you back to a present moment with them instead of living in the future that hasn't happened yet? So that's a very internal question. I mean, an animal communicator can help you find that, but it's really about finding that thing that will pull you back. Is it sitting with them? Is it sitting, looking into their eyes, just being with them, being present with them, and just start remembering things? Pull out old pictures from, when they were more active, when you were more active with them. Remind yourself, because we get such tunnel vision, we forget. We forget all the wonderful things about them, that we lose sight because we're just so focused on that fear of loss. And it's true fear. It's I don't even know. It might even be tougher than the actual grief of losing them, because there's still this anxiety portion of it that does not go away.
Absolutely. And I can relate, because my cat Nico had valley fever. And when he had that, we were living in Arizona, and valley fever was deadly for cats. So my vet did not give a whole lot of hope for Nico, and she practices both allopathic and natural integrative medicine, holistic. So we had a large toolbox to choose from, and I always go natural as much as possible. And with valley fever, with Nico, he did survive it for like 8 years, and he was known as the Wonder Cat in Tucson vet circles, because he was like the first cat to survive it. So I did energy work with him. I made sure he had the best food, and I always gave him a ton of love. He was my little boy, and I rescued him. And I don't have human children, I have animal children. So, my heart was very connected with Nico. And when he was passing, I sat with him, and I remember this very well. We were in our great room, and he was sitting on the floor. He wouldn't leave, his eyes wouldn't leave me. And I saw green light leaving his body. And I knew that his soul was leaving. And it was wonderful to be with him at that time. And also, obviously, it still touches me today. That was a few years ago. And it's such an honor to be with a being who's passing, whether it's an animal or a person. It's really a special experience that helps us grow too. Wouldn't you say so, Melissa?
I totally agree with you, and thank you for sharing that. It's clear to see how much you love him, and there is something special about that. And I hear from people, it's scary, and they're scared, and it's okay to be scared.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to be uncomfortable, because it's not always beautiful. It's about finding that inner strength in yourself to hold them when they're passing, when they're leaving, and whether that's assisted or natural. There's just something about the bond that we share with them, and they're trusting us and they love us, and just to be able to still smell us and be in our presence and our warmth, it helps them release, because they know we're still there. We're still with them. And my experience is really, they don't leave us. They don't leave us.
Right.
They switch forms. There's grief. I know this, and I grieve. Again, if you read my Substack, you will see, like, I share a lot about grief, because there isn't really a place for it. There isn't a place to talk about it. And, I think it's just such an important conversation to have, because we don't know how to grieve in our culture. It's so icky to grieve, right? Like, it makes so many people uncomfortable that we don't even know how to do it, and we hold it all right here. And then one day it just comes out, or when one day we get sick. So it's just important to find your way to grieve too. Honor your animal. But I mean, that's such a beautiful story, Robin.
Thank you. Thank you. Leilani said, I saw the light leave my mom when she was dying. And yeah, Robin, your love shines through. Thank you, Leilani. So sweet. Your tears are heartfelt and healing us all. Robin, thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
I love life so much. And I'm so connected with animals. They've helped me heal trauma. Nature has helped me heal trauma. And, going back to Nico after, after the light left his body, I watched his eyes, and we were eye to eye the whole time. And I was holding him in my arms, and I saw his eyes they were like, they're crystals, and his eyes I could see were crystallizing. Like I could see that life leaving his eyes. And he and I stayed in eye contact the whole time as I was holding him, and it changed me. Absolutely.
It's like I can see that he's looking at you, but because it's almost not that you're going with him, but he's saying goodbye and he's feeling that release, but knowing that you're right there with him, it helps alleviate some of their fear, some of their resistance, some of their the stuff that comes along with passing. He could look at you with love and feel that you're there with him, and he's not alone. He's not going alone. And it's just really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Leilani says, I feel like my mom is closer in my heart now. And yes, Leilani, she is. And that's how I feel with Nico. We were so connected and bonded that he was meowing goodbye, as he was leaving. And oh man, it helped me grieve in a way that I didn't have to hold on to the grief. I was able to actually not move on without him in a sense of, he's forgotten. It was like a strength. It gave me strength after he left, so I wasn't a blubbering mess for months.
I understand what you're saying, and there's something like about so if we go back to the anticipatory grief, that's part of it too. Like if you have less regrets if you're able to be present with them while they're still here, rather than looking back and thinking, oh, because I don't think you realize it until you've gone through it where you're actually more present. Because one of my friends, her dog a couple of years ago was passing, and I was very involved with animal communication with her, and because it was almost every day. Is it time, Melissa? Is it time? And no way would I ever make that decision, but I can feel in their body, what part of the transition. Do they want help? Do they not want help? There's things I can ask them, but there was this connection that she had with her dog, Roxy, that it really changed her to the point afterwards. She, of course she's in grief. She lost her dog and it was her baby. But she said it was a different kind of grief than her dog, Ladybird, who had died a few years ago, because there was something that she didn't have those regrets hovering over her the same way. Like, oh, did I do this? Did I do that? She absolutely knew she did what she could do, and she was present, and that presence changes. Not letting go. It's just, it is though. There's a letting go. There's a surrender at death. Like we can't have them. We can't hold them anymore. And that loss of control, I think, gets us too, because it's like, no. So it helps alleviate that panic, and it helps transition you too. After they've transitioned, it helps you transition to a different type of grief.
100%. I can speak from experience. And thank you for that, Melissa. That's a great example. And Leilani says, Melissa and Robin, grief work is so needed. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that if we were taught, I know it's different for everyone, but I think if we, going back to what you said, Melissa, we need a place to talk about these things and openly and not be shameful, feel shamed or embarrassed. We really need a place to be able to talk about these things because it's a universal experience. And if we have that connection with each other, that we can talk about the hard things, we can help each other. So
Exactly.
thank you, Melissa, thank you everybody for being here. This is really, really uh, so important, as Leilani said.
I agree.
I'm still crying. So, for listeners who want to deepen their listening, what 3 daily habits would you recommend and why?
So I touched on this, but I'm going to go back to the meditation, figuring out a meditation that works for you. How do you quiet yourself? But also getting to know certain things about yourself. Like, what are you feeling? And I'll give an example. When I was in the corporate world, sure, I was stressed, I was anxious, I knew all these things, but I didn't know how I felt. I didn't know certain things about like what's driving this. Like, I just knew I was anxious and stressed every single day because I was so busy, right? But like actually settling yourself enough to know, like, I mean, I do that every morning. I kind of run a scan, an energetic scan on myself, just to see what is my baseline today. Where is there any physical pain is the first thing. Then I'll feel like, am I feeling any emotions? And it's just kind of like mentally, like, what am I going through? So like getting to know yourself on a different level and find how to do that. Meditation, being in nature, hugging a tree and listening to the tree. Like, these things might feel uncomfortable at first. They may sound weird to you, but like the more you do it, the more you're like, wow, okay, like tree huggers used to have such a bad reputation, right? Like, but oh my gosh, the power of grounding yourself through the energy of a tree who's literally grounded in the earth, deep into the earth, and then feeling that. It's amazing, right? Like, so finding little practices that will help get to know yourself a little better, but get to also understand what's driving some of these things. You asked for 3 little things. So first thing is home base, figuring out how to get to neutral for yourself. So it's not about eliminating all these thoughts and ideas and feelings. It's about, how do you know when you're neutral enough to receive something else? Because otherwise there's a bunch of noise coming from yourself, your own body, your brain, and that's where doubt can come in. But practicing. So you can start with your own animals. I do like suggesting people start with friends or family or complete strangers if they're open to it, because you'll start to build trust with your own intuition. And we're so easy to dismiss, like, oh, well, I know everything about my dog. Of course, I'm making all this up. So when you do work with other animals and practice with other animals, you're going to get validated by that person. Like, oh yeah, so the color yellow came up. Cool, their bed's yellow, their bowl is yellow, whatever it is, right? And these things will build your trust in trusting your gut, trusting your intuition, because so many of us have gotten away from that. We're actually discouraged from, no, don't do that. And then the other is really connecting with your own animal. So putting your devices down, spending good quality time. If you're not doing it already, honestly, start with 5 minutes a day. And, don't be defensive about it, right? Like, it took me, because I'm like, I spend all my time. I also don't have human children. So like, I spend all my time with my animals. Of course I know them in and out. I wasn't actually present with them though. So it's about finding, how can you be more present with them and practicing that. And I think those are the first 3 things you have to, or you should start with, to start to kind of get the wheels going, right? To get, because trusting yourself, your own intuition, I think quite honestly is the hardest part. A lot of us have this negative self-talk, and it's just culturally, right? Doubting
Yes.
these things, not listening to these things. You're making it up. That's all make-believe, right? Like, there's been our own voices, but there's been voices from our past that kind of discourage this, right? Oh, you have an active imagination. So like it's about relearning how to trust yourself and what you're receiving.
You're so right. I think that absolutely that is the most important thing. And it takes practice.
Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even from like day one, the first time I started doing animal communication versus like if you compared my notes from then to now, it's different, right? And don't think you're going to get these booming sentences like I want pizza for dinner and I want to go to the zoo. Like you might see an image of a zoo or a lion. I mean, things might come to you very abstract, but it's also about learning how you receive things. Because, for me, very visual person. So I think first I was very much receiving a lot of visuals. Then I started hearing things. Like the more you practice it, the more you start tuning into your other clairs. Your other clairs start awakening and really allowing you to receive more information. And it's funny because like throughout the day animals will communicate with me differently. I will receive, again, sometimes I hear words, sometimes it is very clear, like the house is stressful, or sometimes it is something very clear, but it didn't start that way. It definitely didn't start that way. So don't look for a book about what you're asking. It's simple things, and then trust.
Yes. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for that. And Leilani says, you are the third and fourth person to share the light leaving her body. Yeah. And Julie Doney says, all the trees in my yard have names.
Oh, I love that.
I love
it.
Leilani has to go, sending us love and light. And thank you, Leilani. And her Didora is Miss D. Yeah. So we're about, wrapping up the hour here, but I'm going to just kind of ask another question.
Okay.
Which habit gives the fastest, most noticeable result?
For animal communication or?
Yes.
I'm going to go back to nurturing yourself, taking care of yourself, but understanding yourself is going to have the fastest result. Because again, when you can get to a more neutral place physically, emotionally, mentally, it is going to help you expand what you're able to see, receive, hear. Because when we're stuck in our own, analytical brain, we miss so much. I mean, everything. We miss little things that are passing us by, where animal communication is very subtle. It's about learning how to tune into that.
Yes. And sometimes it's like listening to whispers, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. And like I said, like it can come as a picture too, so it might not make sense at first. So it's also about, learning how, if you receive something, maybe how you interpret that. And honestly, if I'm doing a communication for somebody else, I don't generally put my interpretation on it unless, like they're completely stumped, and then we can kind of go back and forth about it. But generally that message is not for me. It's for them, right? And it may not come to you immediately. So being open is just so incredibly important for doing this yourself as well.
Yes, that's excellent. So to wrap things up, Melissa, can you please share one action listeners can do in the next 24 hours with their pet animal, with their child,
Yeah.
whether it's human or animal?
So I would encourage you to find if you don't already meditate, find a 5-minute guided meditation for calming, relaxation, releasing, one of those things, and just sit with that. But leave your door open, invite your animals in. You don't have to bring them in, but just see what starts to shift, because just meditating alone it's so cool. So if you're more of an active meditator, try coloring. So this is an exercise that was done So I do let animals lead Reiki with Kathleen Prasad. She's the founder of it. But one of the activities that she had people do is color. And it's incredible, just that coloring. The animals will come to you because you're getting into that meditative mindset. So it's pretty cool.
That's a great way. And as an artist, I sometimes living on the road, don't really get to do a whole lot of art. And I always have like a sketchbook with me where I can just scribble if I need to.
Yeah. Doodling is good.
Yes. Yes. So this show is in honor of all the animals throughout the world. They really need us, and this is a scary time for all of us because there's so many changes. Things are happening so fast, and we have AI now everywhere and devices everywhere, and and politics are divisive. Everything's such a challenge, and our animals help us just as much as we help them. So I really appreciate this conversation today with you, Melissa. I appreciate your work. And my brother is experiencing that rainbow bridge time with his dog, Owen. I've written about Owen, and Owen was found on the streets of Phoenix in the summer, and he was abused, and my brother adopted him from a kill shelter. And then when my brother and Owen moved from Arizona back to Ohio, Owen's new neighbor, Camp, a dog that would chew the vines off of the fence so that he could see Owen and they could talk and play through the fence. And the story was on Instagram through my brother's neighbors, and Newsweek picked it up. And last time I checked, there was over 5 million views. So I wrote about Owen, went from an abandoned, abused dog to a famous, worldwide loved dog. And so this blessing and prayers going out to Owen and my brother Jeff during this time of saying so long in the physical form. And just, we know that our animals and our beloved human friends too are always with us. And so, Melissa, where can we find your work? And do you have any announcements that you'd like to share, or any last tips?
Yeah, so you can find me on calmingcreek.com. Or here on Substack, my page is Calming Creek as well. Socials, I'm at Calming Creek if you do the socials. And I do in September, I haven't actually, so I'm going to announce it here, but I'm doing an EFT course for people. So we're going to actually do emotional freedom technique, but it's something that helps you regulate yourself. But we're also going to do it for if you have a dog or a cat. So it's just a short little workshop, but it's all about, I think I want to be here to empower people to help themselves, help their animal family, help the natural world. I don't want people just to rely on me. I want to empower them to have these tools so they can do these things themselves. So we're all just so, right? Like you said, the world is like, it's a lot of heavy energy right now. Yeah. So finding these little tools that help work for you, it's incredible. So that's what I would say is, like, find something that resonates with you, whatever that tool is. If it's energy healing, if it's meditation, find something that helps you regulate your nervous system, and then invite your animal in to enjoy that with you.
Beautiful. I love that. And Julie Doney says, now I know why my cat insisted on being near me when I painted.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
That flow state, they love it. They really love it because we're not in our heads anymore, right? We're elsewhere. We're in that creative space that just, they love it because we're not thinking about things. We're not overthinking about anything. We're just in our heart space and we're creating.
Yes. And we're creative beings. We're supposed to create.
We are. Yeah.
Yeah. And create beauty. Not ugly, not hate.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Melissa, for joining us, and thank you, everyone who joined us today. And this recording will be shared later today in Wildlands, uh, on Substack. And thank you, everyone, for your support and your love and your presence. This has been a great hour with Melissa and all of you. So have a great day.
Thank you all, and thank you, Robin.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.